It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He is Gary McNamara. I'm Eric Harley as we move into Wednesday, Day 3 of the Democratic National Convention. Dun, dun, dun. If we had graphics on the radio, that's where they would be. Gary, how are you?
Well, I've just got another cup of coffee here.
Right.
I can't do this show sober.
We need to have some kind of buzz going on.
I need a buzz.
Yeah.
I need a caffeine buzz.
I used a little extra sweet and low in mine. I'm thinking, come on, bring it on, bring it on, bring it on. I didn't even know if that gives you a buzz, but I was going to try. You know, I thought, well, if there's white powder laying around the White House, then I'll just give it, put a little more in my little coffee here. It's radio coffee, too, so it's especially bad. Horrible. National Radio Day yesterday.
Yes, it was.
I did not know that, and I'm a national radio guy.
Yeah, you are.
You and I are both.
It wasn't nationally syndicated Radio Day.
Oh,
it was National Radio Day.
Well, nobody cares about that. I only care about nationally syndicated radio.
You liked my picture, huh?
I liked your picture. You were. It looked like you were about to fire someone. But you posted your picture, an older picture on X, and
from
cool.
Think about that. 39 years ago, that picture was taken of me. I'm in the studios of KMHT FM in Marshall, Texas, where I was working at that time. And I can't remember who took the picture.
1985.
1985.
Wow.
So 39 years ago, that picture was taken.
I had been in radio for only 1 year at that time.
Yeah.
Wow. In fact, next month, September 4th, will be 40 years.
I know I look like a child in the pic, but I was actually 30 years old at that time.
Yeah, you kind of do. It's a lot less wrinkles. A lot less. I mean, so fewer wrinkles. It's like a different person.
Well, the reason that I always, when somebody sent me that picture, I can't remember who it was because I've never been one to take pictures.
Yeah.
Well, I had somebody ask me, what about the time that you were in Florida? Where are your pictures? I go, I don't have any.
Yeah, right.
I've never been one to take pictures. Now, with Facebook, probably, over the last 20 years, most people have documented the things that they have done.
Yeah.
And there's many more pictures of you. But before that, I was never one to have a camera. So somebody took that picture. But the reason I like it is I'm holding a Radio and Records magazine that anybody inside the industry immediately recognizes and go, that's a great radio picture. You're reading Radio and Records. Yeah, I was in music radio at the time.
I didn't catch it at first. You had to tell me that.
I get that every time I post it from people going, people.
If I looked at it long enough, we were in the pre-show meeting when I first saw it. It was when I opened up my X. I did not see it earlier today. When you posted it.
Look how long my hair is. Oh, you can look at it at Gary Red Eye 1.
Yeah, on
X.
X.
On X if you want to see my picture from 39 years ago.
Crazy.
That's when. At that time, that's when I lived in the apartment that had cockroaches in the refrigerator and fire ants coming through the floorboard.
And none of them helped pay rent.
No, they didn't. No rent
or contributed to groceries. In fact, probably ate a few groceries.
Now, I don't know if that was 85. I was out of the apartment by then. I only lived there 4 months, and it was.
Was that your first gig in Texas?
That was my third radio job and my first radio job in Texas. Yes,
Marshall's a great town, East Texas.
I went from living on Navarre Beach because I get this all the time. Navarre Beach, which is between Pensacola and Fort Walton Beach.
Beautiful.
I went from living there to Marshall, Texas, and I remember when I was leaving. I had a place on the Intercoastal Waterway. All our listeners in Pensacola and Fort Walton Beach know exactly where this is. I lived just about a half mile east of the Navarre Bridge, which crosses from, the crosses the intercoastal waterway to actually Navarre Beach. But there was nothing there when I was there. Nothing.
Mm-hmm.
They had just filmed Jaws 2 a couple of years before. That's where Jaws 2
Oh,
was.
I didn't
At
know.
Navarre Beach, yeah.
Yeah, I think you said that, and I, for some reason, didn't remember it. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And so, I love living there, and people are like, "You're going to Marshall, Texas?"
Yeah, right.
And I will admit, I was hugging on. It's like my buddies are like, I got my car packed, and they're pulling me. I'm like holding on to the support, support beam in my little screened off section of the little cottage I had, and we had our own beach on the Intercoastal Waterway, and you could walk out. I mean, and the Intercoastal Waterway, you can walk out a long way.
Yeah.
They dig the channel where the barges go through,
Right.
but that's like a mile out.
Right.
So you can go out. You can go out.
Yeah.
500, 1,000 feet, and it's only up to your shoulders, and you could swim.
Right.
Occasionally, there'd be dolphins. I never saw a shark in the Intercoastal Waterway. At actually Navarre Beach. But it was great. And I was like, I got to go to Marshall, Texas.
You're leaving the beach.
But I've talked about, that was a benchmark. That was a huge benchmark in my life because I remember then the drive. I remember driving, and I had already been to Marshall. I already interviewed, and I had already gotten my apartment, had my first month's rent paid on that apartment with the cockroaches.
Yeah.
And had that paid, and I probably had just a couple $100 to my name and my credit card with $1,000 credit line, and everything I owned was in my what did I have, a Pontiac Sunbird, my 1980 Pontiac Sunbird.
All right.
And I remember driving out of Jackson, Mississippi,
Yeah.
and on my way to East Texas, and I remember thinking, wow, am I happy. What a great life I'm living.
Mm-hmm.
What an incredible life. And that I always go back as a benchmark in my life to say you will never, you can have complaints at work and things like that, but you will never overall under the umbrella of happiness ever be sad of anything else that happens in your professional life. If you were happy at that moment, there's no reason to never be happy. And when I went to Marshall, Texas, I had the greatest time ever.
Yeah.
I mean, I had such a great time working in radio. It was, it's a relatively small market.
Right, yeah.
The one reason that drew me there is the whole thing was we're going to expand the antenna and cover Shreveport. That was the thing. And so that's why I went to that. I didn't want to go to a small market like that, but they never did it.
I almost went to Shreveport to work for Kenny Wayne Shepherd's dad. I was friends with Ken Shepherd of KTUX in Shreveport.
Oh, K-Tux.
K-Tux, yeah. And
Moon. Anybody who's listening in Shreveport, remember, I don't know if Moon Dog.
Yeah.
There was a guy at night called Moon Dog on K-Tux.
Yeah.
I'll never forget that.
Oh.
Moon Dog.
And Ken was a great guy, and I was gonna move from Wichita Falls, Texas, to Shreveport, and that was going to be a big deal for me. Ultimately, it didn't pan out. But Ken and I were friends. Young Kenny, very young Kenny, was already playing. I don't know if he was playing guitar then. It was, actually he was. Yes, he was. And I mean, the very beginning, and used to sit in Ken's office and play guitar. And eventually got discovered and made it big. I actually went with a young Kenny to a big show here in Texas. They took him to, because Ken didn't want to go to the show. We were all here in the Dallas area. I didn't live here at the time, and Ken didn't want to go to the show. We went to the Cotton Bowl, and young Kenny Wayne Shepherd was excited because it was Santana, it was Steve Miller Band, and ZZ Top. So 3 bands with guitar heroes, and Kenny was all in. Young Kenny was all in, and turned out to be great. I always wonder where it would have gone if I had, those different paths.
Oh yeah.
Had I moved to Shreveport, I could have been, perfectly happy for, years and years and years. But this is the path I was on, and I'm grateful for that. No offense to Ken Shepard or K-Tux or Shreveport or anything else. It was a great opportunity. It didn't pan out, but it was Marshall. I've been through I don't know how many times going to Shreveport actually. On your way, and I love those. I love those towns, and I think about it now in terms of, and you put it in perspective of these towns, small towns all across America, and the people there, the culture there, what's important to people there, and there's that connection. And when you live in a massive city, and you and I have lived here, I've lived here for almost 30 years. I've lived in North Texas since I was 15, and the big city loses a lot of that very quickly. There are great people here, but the priorities change, and there's always that thing of, and we saw it kind of during COVID. People going, well, even some of the tech guys, I want to move out a little bit. I want to get out of the city. I want to get out, and there was this greater appreciation of that culture. I just watched a video with Jack Osborne, of all peoples, Ozzy's son, who bought this farm in Idaho. And he says, when we come here from L.A., I want my kids to know, because he grew up in the countryside, very posh countryside of England. His wife grew up on a farm. And they were making those comments. I didn't watch the entire piece, but about the culture. He said the first thing he did was set up his gun range. And he hunts and everything. This is Jack Osborne, Ozzy's son. And I thought, man, I've got a lot of questions for him. Mm-hmm. That's a very interesting take. But again, making that connection to that culture in the small town, in the values, what's important, what you want your kids to learn, how you want to raise your kids. We talk about the local government being more important, but in a small town, you have even greater access to that. Everybody knows everybody, and so there is a lot of that involvement.
It was somebody had posted, it was on a radio blog the other day, did you ever take food from a listener? And when I worked, and in case you just tuned in, just talking about yesterday was National Radio Day, and I'd posted a photo of me working in Marshall, Texas on my X site back in 1985. I'm getting a lot of insults. But all good.
It's a great picture.
No. All good nature. Yes. All good nature. But I remember on a Christmas day where I was a single guy, so I gave everybody off, and I worked from 6 a.m., I don't know, to maybe it was 6 p.m. or 8 p.m. or whatever. Yeah. I did a super long shift, and listeners brought me food, and I ate the food. Right. Think about that. Yeah. Think about the trusting nature. Yeah. But the listeners in a small town like that actually became, your family. I mean, I had so many great experiences in East Texas. I remember, and I had no money. Yeah. And I had no money, and I was working all the,
I think that's why people give radio people
food
because they understand.
Well, you know what I think of? You see me in there and how skinny I am in the one. Well, you can't see it, but I had another picture that I posted, I think, on Facebook that shows me, and you can see how skinny I am. And I'm thinking, that's what Eric used to say about, people in rock and roll, that because they only get so little money to eat, they never have enough to eat. And that's why they're so skinny. That's why they can say skinny, is because they can't afford to feed themselves.
I was 138 pounds on stage, carrying a big old guitar, and it was, because I just didn't have any money for food.
But to go full circle on it, when I worked in Marshall, Texas, and I worked there from 84, 85, and 86. Yeah. And I remember coming to Dallas, and it was like, wow, radio in Dallas. Yeah. And I'll never forget coming in, and everybody would listen to the late Ron Chapman.
Oh.
And I remember
total greatness, legend.
I remember coming in, listening to Ron, and every time I hear Supertramp, Cannonball, I think of that moment. Wow. He was playing, Cannonball from Supertramp, and it was like, wow, that's the thing that would be the thing. I mean, that would be my life. That would be nothing could be ever better than that. Now, move ahead to, I think it would probably it was either 2001 or 2002. Yeah. And I'm working here. So we're talking 17 years later.
Yeah.
And there I am working at our flagship station, WBAP, and I'm at the State Fair of Texas.
Yeah.
This little guy walks up to me, and he says, Gary McNamara? And I said, yeah. He says, Ron Chapman. He said, love your show.
Yeah, wow.
And he goes,
Yeah.
and he told me, he said, love the show. He said, what you guys do in talk radio, understand that what you do to be able to go on and give your opinion uncensored is such a valuable thing. Never, ever take for granted that you have the ability in this country to do a talk radio show, which is a completely different animal than a music show. But he was just telling me, he said, I'm sort of jealous of what you guys get to do, but understand and savor the moment. And I'm like, thank you. you know, because I was in awe because it was Ron Chapman. It was wow.
It's and that the same thing with me growing up in North Texas. I mean, listening to Bill Mack for years, and I got to work with him. Hal J at WBAP.
Yep.
My dad, he picked me up. My car was broke the first day of radio, September 4th, 84. My dad picks me up in this small town, a couple hours from here, and he's listening to WBAP, Hal J, Dick Siegel, on in the afternoon because they used to do a double shift. And he said, well, you know, you probably should think about something. If you're like these guys at a station like that, WBAP, then that's a career. But otherwise, it could be a great hobby. And maybe you need to think about military or something else. And eventually I did voices for Hal, in fact, for 10 years.
Your dad was thinking military. My dad, be an engineer. Get out of radio. There's no security. Be an engineer. Be an engineer.
Here's what I know. Let me, exactly. You should do things like this. Exactly. Right.
We got a great show ahead. DNC, day number 2.
Yeah.
Nothing new.
Night of the Obamas. Is that a horror movie? I think it is.
It's going to be fun.
It is.
866-90 Red Eye.
This report is brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance. Keep your engine humming in the heat this summer by keeping up with preventive maintenance. Think your PM is complete after your oil is changed? Think again. There's grease, transmission fluids, and gear oil to consider too. Transmission fluid, for example, prevents wear of gears, bearings, and bushings, protects against corrosion, and acts as a heat transfer fluid. You may not think about this every time you get behind the wheel, but as soon as it's not doing its job, you'll notice. Misapplication of transmission fluid can mean reduced fuel economy and abrupt or hard shifts if the static friction is too high. It can also cause sluggish operation at low temperatures if the viscosity is too high and leaking through seals if viscosity is too low.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Now, this seemed to be, from as soon as I woke up, seemed to be the consensus. This was the highlight of the DNC last night. Okay, are you ready?
Right.
And it was Michelle Obama. Here we go.
I want to know who's going to tell him that the job he's currently seeking might just be one of those black jobs.
All right, now what I got from, again, as soon as I woke up, that's what, within 30 seconds, what a great speaker. Oh, she tore the house down, and that was the line, and that was the line, and that was the line. And I'm thinking to myself, so playing the race card again in 2024.
Yeah.
That's the great accomplishment. And something that we know from the Obamas playing the race card. Last night they played, it was just strange. They played Trump is a billionaire and that's bad.
Yeah.
And the race card.
Yeah. Right.
We'll tear this all apart.
It's the old playbook.
Yeah.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen when and where you choose if you can't listen live overnight.
And thank you.
Yeah, day 2 of the DNC was let's personally attack Trump.
Yep.
Let's accuse him of being a racist. Yep. And let's accuse him of being a billionaire.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we have said, and we've been consistent on this, let's put it this way. Now, when we looked at the Republican convention, the celebrity speakers we could care less about. Everybody was going crazy about Hulk Hogan. We could care less.
To me, that's just entertainment. It doesn't really do anything.
Right. So we discount the entertainers, and what we liked was J.D. Vance's speech where he talked issues, and Trump, the first part, especially the first part of it, the first half hour, where he was heavy on issues. You don't see any heavy issues. We've always stated that the only goal of a presidential campaign is to go after independents.
Yep.
That's what your job is. And when you saw the first 2 nights of the DNC, well, let me just talk about the second night of the DNC, because the first night was different. That was the big lie, pretending that Biden just decided, well, okay, I'm not going to run anymore because I'm a great guy.
Yeah.
I'm
a hero.
I'm a hero.
Serious.
I'm a great guy. and the funny thing is, the reports are that think about this, that the night that the Obamas are there, Kamala Harris and Waltz aren't there. And the reason is, and everybody knows it, the reason is, and the source reporting is out there, that the Bidens are still so ticked at the Obamas for kicking him out.
Right.
And so when I saw that, when I saw two of the highlights that the Democrats claim were highlights, and even you had, I think one of the writers from the New York, I think it was New York Post, whatever, is normally conservative. What a great speech. I mean, disagree with it, but what a great speech. Does playing the race card in 2024 against Donald Trump, when that's already been vetted, we know that. We know on the first night, all the big lies about Trump came up, things that he never said came up. That's sort of known in the public. But everything that you saw was class warfare and identity politics last night.
You make a good point on the vetting of the racism thing for Trump, because we go back to Michael Rappaport. And the reason we use Rappaport is because this guy was a raging liberal. Now he's a raging anti-Democrat. I can't call him conservative, but I don't know that he's a conservative. But he's one of those former raging liberals who at least admitted that recently the whole thing about Charlottesville was a lie, and I bought into it back then, and I'm just learning the truth about it. Because, and that's the thing, to go after Trump now, I mean, they're going to do it. Of course, they're going to do it. You're trying to build the hatred toward Trump. That really is the only game that the Democrats have right now. And the night of the Obamas was a clear indication of that. We've got to vilify him. This is not a pro-Kamala vote. This is an anti-Trump vote. And you just pound that. But you make a great point in that it's being vetted, and I think it's really actually horrible timing, but they don't really have a choice. It's the only place they can go when it comes to Trump. They don't really have any other game.
Well, with and of course Michelle Obama, by doing that, is taking the Trump narrative that illegal immigrants in this country have taken a lot of black jobs. That's where that came from, which, by the way, has been the narrative since illegal immigration has been around.
Right.
In fact, Democrats were complaining about that a few years back.
They remember
right.
when all of the caravans were coming across the border, and cities Chicago was the focus for a while because you had people in Chicago saying, why are they spending so much on people who aren't citizens and housing them and everything else when they should be spending money in our neighborhoods?
Yes.
And
Yep.
that wasn't conservatives saying that.
And so they're taking something that he is saying, look, it's taking jobs and it's taking a significant portion of jobs from blacks to attempt to turn that into a negative. Didn't hold water to begin with.
Right.
It really didn't go anywhere.
Right.
Because when you explain it, people go, oh, okay, I understand that. But the fact is, one of the criticisms that has been out there about Trump is that just don't gloss over the different issues there when you talk about the weaponization of government. Be specific.
Yeah.
Just don't say the 51 did this, because the whole goal is to go after independence. You need to explain it. Your base knows what you're talking about, but that's not who you're going after. You're going after independence.
Right.
Most people did not know the context of Michelle Obama doing that, because I'm trying to put myself, and it's tough. I'm trying to put myself in the role of an independent, not as a conservative libertarian that I am.
Right.
And that was the first thing I went, as and again, if we criticize Trump, and Trump's been criticized for not explaining things, and you're trying to get independence, stop worrying about the base. You got the base.
Right.
Everything last night was about the base.
Yeah.
Nothing is about independence. Nothing is about how are you going to solve the inflation problem. In fact, everything that you hear is the opposite of it. With the platform coming out, the platform is spending money on everything.
Yeah.
Forget about the $25,000 for a house or the price controls. Everything that they put down there that they want to do, they can't do. We can't afford to do it. Inflation would skyrocket, and then with the price controls, and then yesterday with the 25% tax on unrealized capital gains. My God, you're going to scare off. I mean, if you ever did that, you know how capital would leave the United States?
Right.
Nobody's going to want to pay taxes on unrealized capital gains. I haven't taken out. I don't have it yet. Now, it's not going to happen, but the fact that this is what she is promoting is just it's pure insanity. And what are they doing? Let's attack Donald Trump for being Pritzker's attacking him for being a billionaire.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like when he wasn't making sense at all. And then she comes out, and it's the Obamas are strictly identity politics, which, again, is not surprising. They were the ones. Remember, it was Obama that created the narrative. Remember the beer summit? I can't think of the professor's name.
Gates.
You got Professor Gates, because a police officer came because he wanted to protect the house because a neighbor said somebody's breaking into a home.
Right.
The police officer was completely right. Obama started it. Obama is the one that started the entire narrative. There's two things that Obama started. The entire narrative, the police departments are automatically suspicious from day one that you give the criminal the advantage. And number two, Obama's the one that started the radical transgender movement in this country.
Yep.
It was under the Obama administration that they attempted to change Title IX.
Right.
And so Obama got to the point of being so bizarre. The interview he did, I believe it was with The Atlantic just before he left office, which was he was asked about, well, why do you call yourself black when you're mixed? And he was like, because I've come to realize that race is a social construct.
Right.
I mean, these things are insane things, and they started with the Obamas. So the fact that they used identity politics isn't surprising to me. But if you're trying to get the independent, if you say to Trump, the presidency is one of your black jobs,
right? Yeah.
You're throwing at the independent. Oh my God, they're talking racial identity politics, affirmative action again, DEI.
Yep.
That's what I got out of it. If you're an independent, that's what I got out of that particular speech. But it's so bad for the Democrats that even Republicans said, oh, Yeah, I mean, I don't agree with the content of it, but it's a great speech. So now if you can read off a teleprompter,
Yes.
the standard is so low in the Democratic Party that if you can just read off a teleprompter, it is viewed as the greatest possible night that the Democrats could possibly have.
Right.
But on substance, there's nothing there. And I was thinking to myself, am I right on that? Because I was thinking, you and I do the same thing. Am I right? Can I take my own prejudices away, and can I look at it as a independent would? Well, let's look at it. I think Raymond Lopez, lifelong Democrat alderman in the city of Chicago yesterday.
Okay.
On the Democratic convention so far.
Okay.
Democrats winning any new voters at this convention?
I highly doubt it. I think this is all playing to their own base, not trying to recruit new people, because clearly the Democratic Party, my party, is not interested in talking about what matters. How are you going to keep people safe? How are you going to secure the border? And how are you going to deal with the 8 million undocumented individuals that they let in under Kamala Harris's lead?
You're speechless.
Yeah. Exactly what he said. But it's not just that it's what he said. It's who he is, what he does, where he is, and where the convention is.
Yes.
All coming together in the inevitable things that you and I have been talking about. There's no way that you get to the summer of 24 and a Chicago convention without there being this situation. Early 24, Mayor Brandon remember they were going to end the housing for illegals in Chicago, in I forget which part of Chicago it was, and it was going to be like early February, and then everybody said, you can't throw people out in early February in Chicago in the cold, and they had to end that. It's like, yeah, you've already, the problem is the people, we've said this. You said several times in terms of what the local media does, the impact of the local media.
Yeah.
It was the local media in Chicago. The Jussie Smollett thing fell because of the work done by local media there in Chicago.
I think a lot of it was CBS Chicago, wasn't it?
I think so.
It was, yeah.
And it's because, first of all, something didn't seem right at the beginning, and then there was more investigation. But the point is that there is that focus. You hear from local aldermen here. That is identifying what we talk about local government. I alluded to that earlier, and the benefits of having more things controlled by local government. And you just heard one example of that. An alderman there in Chicago, Democrat,
right.
Repeating what he's hearing from his constituents, the complaints he's hearing from his constituents in Chicago. It may be the cut of the week for me. You actually make the decision on that, but for me,
you can always. You've thrown me audio cuts. I just pushed the button. Don't blame it all on me.
Okay, fine. All right.
Go ahead.
I'll have Alan play it for me off the air. It is so important because it has so many elements that we've talked about in that one comment based on who he is, where he is, and who he represents. It wraps it up. It really does wrap up what the Democrats are facing right now in blue cities.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up on the top of the hour, I'll tell you how the Trump administration, the Trump
We hope again one day, but not yet.
A Freudian slip. How the Trump campaign should respond to night 2 of the Obamas, because again they used identity politics. This is why we have stated over and over again, knowing that the Democrats should use this as a weapon, that one of the major marketing things over the last couple of years from Republicans should have been how Democrats are the racist party. They're the ones that practice identity politics. They're the ones that judge people by the groups they're in, not the individuals. They're the ones with the anti-Semitism problem. They're the ones with the Jew-hating problems.
Yep.
We'll go over that coming up following the top of the hour and a whole bunch more here on Red Eye Radio.
Top of the hour news is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Welcome. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you.
I want to play this audio cut from Barack Obama last night.
Okay.
All right. And when I saw this, I went, I don't think he even reads the news anymore. I think they put something in front of him, because for him to say this on the day that a report came out that was big news across the country, I was like, wow, he actually doesn't pay attention to the news. Listen to this. Here we go.
We can secure our borders without tearing kids away from their parents.
Yesterday,
I was watching that live, by the way, when you said it. Go ahead.
The Department of Homeland Security Inspector General revealed that 291,000 children who crossed the border illegally under the Biden border czar Harris administration are unaccounted for.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just...
They're in the wind.
It's just mind-boggling. But getting back to the Michelle Obama and her line that the presidency is basically one of your black jobs, as she said, the identity politics being played. This opens the door now. Last night was basically all personal attacks on Trump. Nothing was about policy.
Right.
And if it was about policy, like Obama brought up, we can secure our borders without tearing kids away from their parents. He's the one that created this. Two things. He created the cages, and he said that on the day that the Inspector General of the Department of Homeland Security said 291,000 children who crossed the border illegally, they can't account for.
Yeah.
And that's a huge problem. You were saying you were watching it live.
The first thing that when he said that, I mean, you and I watch things like this, and in my head, I have to watch it with headphones on because I need to. I'm in show prep mode when I'm watching something like that, especially right before the show, and so. But I'm talking. My wife's in the room. I'm talking to my device. I was watching it on streaming, and I'm basically responding to things he's saying. And the first thing I said there was, "Yeah, you're the one that put the kids in the cages."
Yeah,
those pictures coming out and separating from families. Let's get into that. I mean, it's of course you're not going to get into it. He's not going to get into it. How do you know their families? How do you know their family? Well, how do you vet that properly to know that those children belong with those adults? How are you going to do that? Well, you can't do that. And they built this entire lie on that idea that, again, they're tearing kids away from their families. and the information the same day. Zero self-awareness.
Yeah, it's zero. That's why I say
Zero self-awareness.
I bet you he doesn't read the news anymore.
I guarantee you he did, and he's so arrogant, he just, believes people are stupid. They won't read the news.
Yeah, he believes, look, I got the idiots of the country to bow down before me as if I was some type of deity.
Well,
Democrats and the independents that voted for me are complete idiots because I didn't deliver a damn thing for them.
And Gruber, the guy that worked for him, remember the stupid American voter who was one of the chief architects of Obamacare, along with Obama. And by the way, yes, Barack Obama, I still call it Obamacare. That was one of his other lines. Now that it's popular, they don't call it Obamacare anymore. I do. And you think it's popular? Because liberals are screaming it's extremely expensive. But again, talking back to my device as he's talking, it's everything can be countered. And you and I step back, and we have to. I mean, if we're going to assess and break this down, then it is, all right, for me, exactly what you were saying, and we didn't even, I don't think we even talked about this in the pre-show meeting, but for me, it's what connection are they making with the independent voter? For a rally, for Democrats tonight was a good rally.
Yeah.
Did it do anything? Was it inviting? Did it open any doors for any independents out there is the question. And you can't convince me that it does. Because the lies that they're telling about to demonize Trump as a racist and a billionaire, first of all, the billionaire thing honestly didn't play into it with most people anyway from the beginning, because, again, he was the guy known for decades as someone who connected more with the hard hats that were building his buildings than he did with the people in the offices. And those are the things, that have already been vetted, as you mentioned, the racism thing.
Say, right.
It's not only is it already been vetted, it's still, the vetting is still going on with some former liberals. And again, we bring up Michael Rappaport, who recently learned in recent months that the whole Charlottesville thing was a lie. We've known it from the beginning, and that's on him. But I think he admitted to that, and he's saying, look at all these lies they've made up about him, and more people. This is really horrible timing, but it's all that they have on the left. You've got to demonize Trump because you can't really promote Kamala Harris.
Yeah, I mean, it was all personal attacks.
Yep,
and so when this opens the door for you to say, you've questioned me about personal attacks. That's all I got last night. And think about this. The implied racism from Michelle Obama and, that I'm a racist. This is from the party. Remember, this is the party when Michael Brown attacked a police officer and attempted to kill him. That's the party that has deified him and still today does. They're the ones that talked hands up, don't shoot still today.
Yep.
And Michael Brown is promoted as a hero, yet he was a criminal. It is the Democratic Party, through their identity politics of judging people by groups and not individuals, that is the racist party. It's institutionalized inside of the Democratic Party. You can go back to when Tim Ryan ran against Nancy Pelosi for Speaker of the House. Tim Ryan made that point. Identity politics has to end. I said, as we all know, it started, think about this, the modern identity politics movement, the racist movement inside the Democratic Party began with blacks, conservative blacks. And if people, people that have black color skin don't toe the line, they're called Uncle Toms, they're called everything.
Yep.
And finally, we have seen where identity politics has gone to the anti-Semitism, the anti-Israel, and the Jewish hatred that has now taken over a significant portion of the Democratic Party. That's how you fight it.
Yeah.
And we have stated, what was it, in 2022 when I said, look, this is 2 years to educate. You need to be pounding on identity politics. And they didn't do it.
Right.
And so you have tonight, again, the Democrats saying that Trump is a racist and a billionaire. Now, they've all been vetted before, but that was the core of the attacks. Wasn't about policy and what we're going to do about policy. And like when they brought up policy as Barack Obama did, it was like, dude, do you understand the report that just came out today?
Right.
We can secure our borders without tearing kids away from their parents. 291,000 children that cross the border illegally in the Biden-Harris administration are unaccounted for.
Yeah.
Apparently, that's separation.
Right.
If you're unaccounted for, if they don't know where the hell you are, think about that. 291,000 children inside the United States. They have no idea where they are or who they're with. And this is, and Obama has any type of credibility. Obama was the biggest poser that thinks number one, hates the United States, made it clear. Remember when he wouldn't wear, people forget about this because they live in the bubble of today, he would not wear the flag pin.
Right.
And the Democrats are going, you've got to wear it. He says, no, because I believe if you wear the flag pin, it shows a false sense of patriotism.
But we all know what he was really thinking is it shows patriotism, and he didn't want any part of that.
Right. He didn't want any part of it. And so he is he conned tens of millions of Americans.
Yeah.
And what did he do? Also, you've got to go Scott Jennings last night on CNN. Okay.
Yeah.
But he said, he goes, the speeches were great. I don't think the speeches were great because it's how do you judge the speech? If the speeches are supposed to convince independents, they didn't talk about any of the issues. They just attacked Trump with the old, he's a billionaire, which doesn't matter. That was vetted decades ago.
Yeah.
Nobody cared that he was a billionaire.
Right.
Romney ran in 2012. Romney's a billionaire. He can't. One of the reasons Romney lost was because he was a billionaire.
Well, actually, he at that time was worth $400 million, which is a fraction of what Trump was worth.
And Trump comes in. Nobody cares. He's a billionaire.
Nobody cares because it's already vetted.
All these things were vetted. It was vetted the first night. The big four lies that the Democrats told, trying to make him seem like, the suckers and losers.
Right.
False. Never happened. Why?
Even John Bolton, who clearly only took the job as national security advisor for Trump because he wanted to write a book. I mean, that he demonstrated that very clearly. After leaving the Trump White House, came back when that all happened, said that never happened.
And then they brought up the Charlottesville that was false. Never happened. What was the other one? There's two other ones. I just can't think of them here at the moment. But my point is that they didn't talk about policy, and they're trying to make the case that the situation that was created by the Biden-Harris administration is Trump's fault.
Yeah.
Here's Scott Jennings.
The gap that I still see in all these speeches, as good as they were, is that she's in the White House right now. Democrats have controlled the White House for 12 of the last 16 years. And for all of the talk about division and the problems in the country and people are hurting, Democrats have mostly controlled this country. Trump had it for 4. The Obamas and Biden had it for the rest of the time. And somehow, it's still all Trump's fault, and somehow she hasn't been at the center of it. So to me, that's still the glaring hole in this campaign that hasn't yet been solved at the convention. How do you explain all of the problems that will be solved by the person who is currently in there for the last 3.5 years, who is supposed to already be working on solving it?
Duh.
I love that. When you, again, step back and look at the big picture and put the numbers to it. And we talked about it with what was going on when Biden was still in, before the debate debacle. The issues were driving Trump's rise in the polls. The issues. And the issues are based on reality, what people are facing every day right now. Not the abstract discussion of what if this happens or what if that happens or what if we implement this policy. The reality, the everyday reality that people are pounded with every single moment of every day, the border. the economy. And you can't undo that reality because it's still knocking on people's doors every day.
You know, interesting thing with everything that happened, you know, it's the most viral thing right now that I've seen on social media wasn't at the convention. It's the mocking of Waltz coming out in Milwaukee.
Yeah.
I mean, the over-exuberance.
Yeah, it's weird.
It is weird. As I said, it's almost, I said it the other day, and no insult was intended because it was a completely different context for the late Richard Simmons. But yesterday he came out of Milwaukee like he was Richard Simmons on major amphetamines.
Right.
Like he was speeding or he had 1,000 cups of coffee.
It was weird.
Because it was weird. And then the same thing with Schumer coming out and doing the same kind of dance thing coming out. It just is. By the way, Schumer is not a great speaker.
Well, he's horrible.
No. But he's a speaker that you put on to rally the base. Everything there is about rallying the base. None of it's going after independence.
Yep. It was a rally.
Yeah. It's a
Night 2 was a rally.
Yeah. Night 1 was a cover-up.
Night 1 was a dumpster fire. But here's the question. Is that on purpose? We need a rally because we're still seeing voter apathy in the internals. We're still seeing rank-and-file Democrats that are not convinced about Kamala. We need a rally.
Well, as
we can't focus on the independent yet. Night 2, let's focus on the party.
I mean, you had polls come out in the states yesterday showing Trump doing great.
Right, and she is
in the battleground.
Right, and again, I just have to ask, what are the internals showing? Was that by design? Let's have a rally on night 2, and that's how we'll use the Obamas.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Brought to you by FPPF. Fuel Power Max.
Leased owner-operators should be aware of 4 common revenue myths, lest you fall into the trap of mistaking revenue for profit. Myth 1, concentrate on increasing revenue because costs will take care of themselves. This is not true, as costs are fundamental to the profit equation and the area where owners exert the most control to improve. Myth 2, more revenue per mile is the answer to all problems. Though carrier pay packages differ in structure, revenue per mile really doesn't change much from company to company. But there can be a big difference in miles, overall gross revenue, reimbursements, and fees. Myth 3, all you have to do to be successful is run a lot of miles. In reality, revenue is only half of the profit equation. Costs are the other half. It's possible to generate a lot of revenue, yet spend $1.10 to make every dollar. Myth 4, you can tell how well you're doing by the size of your settlement check. The settlement check is only a part of the success picture. Miles driven, loads hauled, conditions, mechanical problems, time off, and especially costs all have to be considered. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Overdrive's Partners in Business program. Go to overdriveonline.com to the Partners in Business section of the website for more details on this and many other topics. Brought to you by Shell Rotella, with advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up following the bottom of the hour, we'll tell you what the big stories of the day were. But I'm telling you that picture or the video of Waltz coming out is just the over exuberance. You look at it and you say, "That's fake."
Yeah,
that's fake.
Yeah, it's weird, and the way that he was acting when that CNN reporter was trying to get his attention night before last, where he's just turning his head real fast. That was weird, too. He really has actually turned into Chris Farley. It is laughable and weird. But as he's walking out, and throwing his arms up, and here's what it reeks of, especially when you pair that with AOC several weeks ago jumping up and down on that stage, whatever that rally was that she was at for another candidate. And then...
Oh, the one that lost.
Yeah.
What's his name? The can't think of his name. The
Bowman.
Yeah.
And
fire alarm guy.
Yeah. And it was the day before the election, wasn't it? Or the weekend before? I forget, but it was close to it. Anyway, and then Schumer, and they're all trying to, I don't know, do they believe that motivates people?
I don't know.
Or is everything about rallying the base right now, trying to just get Democrats involved again?
They're definitely not going after independents right now. We know that.
Right.
On our website, RedEyeRadioShow.com. Show info with stations, podcasts, and more. Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen when you choose. That's right. Our show becomes our podcast a few minutes after we're off the air.
Yep.
So if you can't listen, as we want to require you, you should not get any sleep, and you should stay up all night and listen to us. But if you can't.
Right. And so for all those people, we're talking to people in the future right now that are listening later today, right now, later. You just need to know. You missed some things. And we're not going to tell you what you missed.
I like that. That's a good, effective tease.
Not going to tell you.
Well, just quickly, what was Trump doing yesterday? Yesterday on social media. I don't know if he did the podcast yesterday or just the clips were coming out, but doing the podcast of comedian. He's a Theo Vaughn's a comedian, right?
Yeah, stand-up comedian. Yeah, a good one. Very funny.
Yeah, and because you mentioned his podcast before,
yeah,
but Trump is doing what he did in 2016 more than he did in 2020, which is using digital a lot. He was using digital for more ads like crazy in 2016 that they believe is effective. Now he's doing tons of different podcasts. And here is just a part of it. But when you get him one-on-one and he trusts you, listen to the way that he talks. And it's great. I mean, the tone is perfect. Here we go.
And she has no clue. And you know what I say about her? Why don't you do it? She complains about everything. She's been there for 3.5 years. Why don't you do it? All you have to do is say, why don't you do it? Why didn't you fix it? You could fix it right now. Don't, do whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
And she won't talk to you, and she won't talk to anybody. She won't be interviewed.
She's welcome to come on. I would love to get to talk to her.
I'm sure she'd be very exciting. Actually, you could make her exciting, probably.
You think?
Yeah, I think so.
Somebody said she's a good roller skater. That's what I heard, which is crazy.
That's about it.
I mean, that's funny without in any way being mean, as they're just, pounding on him. The other thing is he had let me just find it because it was the other moment. It was a viral moment. Here it is when he was asked this question. He was in Michigan, and one of the reporters said, well, you're in a town that has a history of white supremacy. By the way, which town doesn't?
Right. Yeah.
If you look at our history as a country, which town doesn't? But here it is. Okay.
Campaign is backing you from being in his town because they say you're a white supremacist here a month ago. They're Democrats.
Who was here in 2021?
Joe Biden.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's it.
Oh. Mic drop. Yeah.
I
love that.
But yesterday was a day, the news items that were out there, and this comes before I actually read the articles. It's just scanning what's on social media.
Mm-hmm.
And the stories, as I was scanning, every time I would scan, and I would say, okay, keep this in your mind now. What are the stories out there that are going viral? The one story that this morning the Bureau of Labor Statistics is going to revise the job creation over the last year down by 1 million. Bloomberg had that story.
Yeah.
And we'll get to that story coming up here. Down 1 million. The other story that came out was the Department of Homeland Security Inspector General, and this is when Obama, and I didn't know, this is before Obama came out and said, we will secure our borders. We can secure our borders without tearing kids away from their parents. At the same day, he said that hours after the Department of Homeland Inspector General revealed 291,000 children who crossed the border illegally under the Biden-Harris administration are completely unaccounted for. We don't know where these children are. Can you imagine that? Could you imagine if that was the Trump administration? Could you imagine how the left would look at remember, whatever happened, Democrats, for it's for the children. Remember that one?
Oh, man.
It's for the children.
It would be, you would have AOC crying along a fence. You would have local media, national media, liberal media, in all the towns asking people what they think about it if it were under the Trump administration. It would be never ending. It would be the story. That would be a massive, massive, massive story, especially if that were coming out during the Republican convention.
The other story was the unrealized capital gains, which had been talked about before. But Kamala Harris proposed that yesterday, taxing unrealized capital gains, which means I wonder if they'd go after 401ks and say that this is a new category of even though it's not. I wonder if they'd say, well, let's go after 401ks too with unrealized capital gains, even though it's not
exactly capital gains.
I know, but revise.
Well,
I'm trying to think where the money is to redo the definition.
Well, it would be the logical next step. That, if we can do this with capital gains, then we can do this with unrealized every year, because if it's not a Roth 401k, if it's a traditional 401k, and you start making withdrawals on it, when you do that, you have to pay taxes. It's pre-tax going in, and then tax coming out. But if this is it's the same principle, even though it's not a capital gains tax, it is an income tax. So why wouldn't they go there?
Right, and because they need revenue for it. But when you look at her entire plan, but the unrealized capital gains, that just people went, what are you out of your mind? That's as bad as price controls,
right?
Because capital's going to leave the United States. Who's going to want to pay a tax on unrealized capital gains when you haven't taken the money out? You haven't actually got that income from the capital gains. It's still in the stocks.
Yeah.
And that's just, to me, that was, I was shaking my head. But when you look at everything that they have proposed, the Democrats have proposed nothing new. It's like we have gone back 20 years. It's the exact same thing. It's race. It's class warfare. It's massive government spending. Oh, Biden used his remember when he talked about, not just constitutional rights, but what was it called? What did he call the other rights that exist out there? And this is where you have the right for the government to support you.
Yeah,
you remember because you're the ones.
I forget the words he used.
Yeah, you're the one that.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Whenever I'm thinking about it, you're the one that brought that up, and I forgot what Obama. But he brought that up again. He rehashed that from 16 years ago. That we believe you have more rights. You have the right to free this. You have the right to free that. You have the right to free this.
Well, and he talked about a set of negative liberties. And
that's yes.
Is that the phrase?
The negative liberties, negative rights.
And basically was trying to, and everybody remember it. At 2008, they were calling him the next JFK.
Yeah,
that's not what your country can do for you ask what you can do for your country. And he was fully on board. Obama, ask not what you can do for your country. Ask what your country should be doing for you.
Right. I remember we said that. We came up with that.
and he's bizarro JFK. Right?
Yes.
And no, it's that conversation that he had, and it played out on social media a little bit back then. Social media wasn't near what it is now. But that's what he believes. That's how he thinks. That the government should be doing things for you. But also, and if you heard it tonight, here's what I was wondering about the younger generation that wasn't of voting age in 2008. If you're hearing things that he's saying, again, they always phrase it to sound noble, but you get into what it would actually require and what power the government would have to have, or what power they believe the government has on the left, and exactly how they would be controlling lives. They talk about giving you things. They talk about the government doing things for you, but actually what that would require is outlawing certain behaviors and also taking away a ton of liberties. And I just wondered how, if young people were able to read between the lines, if they were watching anything from Barack Obama last night.
The only twist that was new is you saw all the freedom signs that they're holding.
Mm-hmm.
But that was based on the fact that freedoms just aren't the freedoms that you have that are constitutional rights, that freedoms are about the government giving you things.
Right. Well, and what they call reproductive rights.
Yeah, but that's
which
always
is abortion rights.
Right, but that's always
left.
been there. The new twist was freedom is now what the government can give you.
Okay,
it's always been that
you're
freedom
making the
is
point that they're expanding.
Yeah, they're expanding that freedom.
Yeah, okay.
It's only freedom for some.
Yeah.
Because you're taking the money away from others.
Exactly.
So
what
it's
I was
not.
saying.
So rights are for everybody. The freedoms they're talking about is who gets money from other people.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was. The point I was making is that in order to facilitate what they're promoting, and I do wonder how many people who weren't of voting age in 2008, with the rise of Barack Obama and then ultimately a 2-term presidency, were thinking about that, because you have to put that in line. What does that require? What he's promoting, what does it require? Well, it requires you to go after people and take liberties from them and limit or outlaw their behavior in order to give something to someone else. It also requires you to confiscate someone's property. They will tell you, they use the word halves. We played the cut from the late and great Phil Donahue, who passed away the other day, and we played the cut that we love. We played for years, and the late, great economist Milton Friedman. And the question, as Phil Donahue posed, so many haves and have-nots. Liberals use the word have. They have this money. The money was earned. We use the word earned. And it doesn't matter. We've broken it down to say, okay, the guy at the end of the block, he's working 2-3 jobs, and he's making $200,000, but someone else on the block is making $50,000, and they're working 8 hours a day. So you're going to go after the guy that's working harder. Yeah. You're going to have to go after the guy, and this is the mindset of the left.
What I think is an interesting twist is, because we were talking about this, we spent an hour on it last night about greed because of the Phil Donahue, Milton Friedman cut, and it's like, well, greed is not making a legit profit in involuntary transactions. There's no greed there,
right?
You wish to make the maximum profit, but that's not a selfish,
right,
or a power play on anyone, because you're talking about being in the arena where everybody is volunteering what they're doing. But the fact is, and we said you want greed is the expectation that someone else will pay for your college. Greed is the expectation that somebody will pay for your house. That's greed. The Democrats have now turned greed into freedom.
Well, we broke it down too about the virtue. The virtues within capitalism, and the behaviors required in capitalism for it to work when it's working as intended.
I just wanted to make sure that the freedom stuff what they were doing, the new twist. Freedom is now greed, according to Democrats.
Yep.
Tell us where we're wrong, Democrats. 866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Something that I would also use if I was a Trump campaign. How? I don't know. I don't know how you put this in a commercial, but this was NBC asking Harris campaign spokesperson Quentin Fulks yesterday this particular question.
Will there be any notable differences? Is there one policy where you can point to where Kamala Harris would govern differently than President Biden?
Look, I think it's seen as across the board. At the end of the day, for some of the things when it comes to it, the vice president is listening to voters. This isn't a comparison or contrast. She's been a partner to President Biden as they have delivered a record amount of legislation that has changed people's lives.
That's a no.
Yeah, right.
Is there a single policy you can point to where Kamala Harris would govern different than Biden? No.
No. In fact, he went full on. She's right there with Biden. It's
Kamega is dead.
It's over. We'll always have that moment.
We'll always have Kamega.
I think we'll always remember the moment when we first heard it.
Right.
Alan will remind me later, but I'll remember it after he tells me.
Apparently, the Democrats didn't like Kamega.
Yeah. Maybe there's hope for it. Hope and change. That's what I'm hoping for.
After last night? Yes.
After last night.
Yeah.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Thanks for being here. Did you see where Sean Fain, union leader, yesterday said that there's really no problem at the border? All the crime and everything else is just made up. My God. Yeah. I mean, it's like... But then again, you sit there, though, we talked about and we criticized union leadership as we had for a significant period of time, but you understand they're liberals, so they have the same view that liberal politicians have. They believe that the average union worker is an idiot, is stupid and can't figure anything out, and they're the arrogant leaders that make tons of money off the dues of these people, and they think we can do anything we want because they're a bunch of idiots and we can keep our power base together. You look at the Democratic Party, what this is. Right now, what you see is you have a few people in the higher-ups, the elite of the Democratic Party. They're controlling everything. They don't give a damn about the voter out there. You can tell, because remember, all of this is being put together by the DNC. Biden's out because of the Obamas, Pelosi, Schumer. They're the ones that are controlling everything to the point where they've said the Democratic voter doesn't matter. Now, as Maureen Dowd said the other day, a coup is a coup, but the Democratic voter doesn't care.
There was no outrage from the voters.
Right. The Democrat voter is okay with the elite running the party and treating them as if they're a bunch of idiots. They're okay with it. That's the problem that you have. You look at last night when we talked about the fact that it was basically class warfare, the lies. By the way, Pritzker brought up the injecting bleach.
Yeah.
Again, from Trump,
right.
Which again
is that twice this week they've done that?
Oh yeah, because Biden did it. Because all four were brought up yesterday. It was injecting bleach, Charlottesville, suckers and losers, Bloodbath.
Oh, bloodbath.
Bloodbath.
Yes.
Bloodbath.
Yep.
All
Thank you, Alan.
lies.
Yeah.
All lies and the bleach.
Right.
All debunked. All completely and totally debunked. Now they know they're doing it, but the elite of the Democratic Party, and that is the establishment that's been there. Oh, we'll throw Clinton in too, because he gets a Wednesday primetime speech, and you've got a lot of Democrats going, "What the hell is he doing there?" Because they want the establishment in there. They are promoting the same things that they have promoted. They've not changed at all.
Yeah, Tuesday night was going back 20 years. This will be going back, Wednesday night will be going back 30 years.
30 years. No, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it's about. And that's actually, I've seen Democrats try to criticize that. Oh, there's somebody I know on Facebook. The Republicans brought in all these new faces that support Trump. The Democrats are much better. They're bringing in everybody that shows the history of the Democrat Party.
Yeah.
It's like, really? That's what you're going with?
Right.
But Pritzker brought up the injecting bleach hoax. And then, after Bernie Sanders criticized billionaires, he said basically he was trying to make the point he's a better billionaire than Trump.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, it's bizarre. And that's why, again, when Scott Jennings said, oh, they were all good speeches, like, for whom?
Yeah.
Now, and I understand that when you're there and you see everything that's going on and you see the crowd cheering, naturally, it's like being at a sporting event. If the crowd the crowd's going crazy, you're saying to yourself, something good is happening on that floor, right?
Yeah. Right.
But what is the purpose of any campaign, and what is the purpose especially when you get to the convention? It is to get people to vote for you. And you made the great point, is the fear that they have. Because obviously everything in the DNC the first 2 days has been to please the base. None of it has gone after independents. All of it has been personal attacks at Donald Trump that the base loves.
Yeah.
They love that.
Right.
All of it is identity politics. Let's bring up racism and that Trump is a racist. And then is class warfare, that he's a billionaire, but he's the wrong. Here's the thing about the new class warfare with the Democrats. You know where I'm going. I love it. It's like you're my wife. Like you can read me. I'm very uncomfortable here
when
at
the audience laughs at the setup, then you know it's going to be good. Go ahead.
Well, it's the fact of billionaires aren't necessarily bad.
Exactly.
If you're the right kind of billionaire, which means you're the person in charge of destroying a state.
Right. Like Bernie used to say millionaires and billionaires, and now he just says billionaires because he's a millionaire.
Well, the other thing that came out was Michelle Obama and the Obamas, pounding on, playing the whole class warfare thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, look at all the $1 million homes that they now have. And remember, all their money came because of public service.
Right. George Clooney is their butler.
All their money came from public service.
Yeah. Yeah.
It came from being president
Yep.
and first lady and the speeches that they give.
Right.
All of it.
And they're still paying off student loans.
Remember that? Well, but that makes the point.
Yeah.
Remember, she had said she hadn't paid off her student loan.
Right. Yeah.
And that was years ago, though.
Right.
It's paid off now. But all their money came.
I think it's paid off.
All their millions.
It should be. It may not be.
She hasn't paid it off,
right?
Because of the new
paying
COVID
the minimum,
rules.
Still paying the minimum.
We'd rather have the house, and I'm getting some relief.
Yeah,
but
Biden paid off their student loan for them.
But the hypocrites on everything with the Obamas. I mean, you cannot find bigger hypocrites than the Obamas. Look at climate change, for example. Mm-hmm. See, we have long memories.
Oh yeah,
we have long memories. Remember when they were? Remember when Obama was over in Africa?
Yeah. He just did a tour of all the nations of Africa, and he's about to leave Africa.
And he gave a speech and basically said, you can't have the riches of the West because the oceans will boil. Remember that speech?
Just as he's about to get on a massive plane designed for one person.
Well, he took a private plane. He took a private plane just to speak at the convention, and then back. They don't give a damn about.
No, they don't care.
Remember the house on the coast of the Atlantic Ocean,
right?
The seas are going to rise. Then why the hell are you building it there?
Right.
I mean, the hypocrisy. Think about the hypocrisy messages. If you just have an ounce of brain power going on there, number one about the Obamas, but over the DNC in general, when you see defund the police, well, yeah, except when we have the DNC. Walls, there was one picture of the protesters. The protesters were, this is outside the Israeli embassy. The protesters were like cornered on every side by huge rows of police.
Right.
So not only did they not defund the police, but they had police walls.
Right.
To keep people away from the DNC. Did you see the lines? Democrats are complaining because the lines were so long because everybody's got to show their ID in order to get in.
Yeah.
I mean, the hypocrisy of how the Democrats legislate, and then when the real world hits them, when it's about their security and what they wish to do is completely opposite of what they want you, the peons, how you to live. Oh, no, you've got to have ID in order to get in here. You need ID to get into any of the rallies. You've got to have ID. How about ID for voting? Absolutely not. That's racist.
Exactly.
I mean, the hypocrisy across the board. If you have an ounce of intelligence, if you are a loyal Democrat, you don't care about any of that. You don't. You don't care. You don't care that your party, you do not care. And we'll have a poll on that, though, by the way. The majority of Americans disagree with what the Democrats are doing, and it's growing. The number, but Democrats themselves, the vast majority of Democrats, are okay with with not following a democratic process to pick their candidate. Now, even if it's the worst candidate, and they know it's the worst candidate, they're still okay with it. Because if they have no other choice, if there's no better option, to hell with democracy, authoritarianism is the way to go.
Now, we know that because there's zero outrage. We're hearing nothing from them. I'll introduce this as a part of what I was saying before.
Okay.
Or are they upset about it? Is that part of right now what might be contributing to a new level of voter apathy going, okay, you guys had this, Joe Biden who wasn't capable, and we were going to stay home, and then all of a sudden you usher her in, and we get no say-so in it? Yeah, we're definitely staying home. I don't know. I'm asking the question of what are they seeing in the internals? Because what you saw last night at the DNC was a rally, and it was strictly for the base. They were not reaching out for independents. That is not the case. They were building reintroducing their agenda from years and years and years. And it was targeted directly at liberals, not the independent voter, which has me wondering, is that because they're all seeing the same internals that shows a great deal right now, a great deal of Democrats not willing to show up on Election Day? I'm just asking a question.
Well, this Rasmussen did a poll. Former President Donald Trump isn't the only one unhappy that Vice President Kamala Harris replaced President Joe Biden. A majority of likely voters are also groaning over the Democrat Party's choice, even women. In the latest Rasmussen Report survey, 52% said Harris is not the best possible presidential candidate for the Democratic Party this year. 39% said she is. The pollster did not offer any alternative choices. You don't need to. But it did show the depth of disappointment among voters. For example, just 41% of women think Harris is the best. Wow. Only 41% of Hispanics called her the best. And even among Democrats, less than 3/4 are wowed by Harris. Voters also told the pollster they have mixed feelings about how Harris was just installed in the nominee slot without having to compete for the job or even post a policy position.
Okay.
But when it comes down to it, even if they're disappointed with Kamala Harris being chosen, Rasmussen said 48% felt the process was unfair, 47% were good with it. So what you have is Democrats that don't like the fact that Harris was chosen, but are okay with the authoritarian, the non-democratic process of choosing her. which is bizarre.
Yeah, it is. And my question would be, then what does that mean for their base, and how motivated is their base? If they're going, yeah, we're okay with it, wherever they are, are there any internals is there any information showing right now voter apathy is still a threat? Because with Biden running, there was no doubt. They were talking about it openly. The down ballot, the down ballot, the down ballot. And are they looking at it going, look, she's not the one. We know she's not the one, but we got to rally the base to get out there and do everything we can to save as much as we can on the down ballot. I don't know. I'm just asking a question. I have no idea, no information that shows me that is the case. But show me where the grassroots euphoria is for her.
By the way,
doesn't exist.
By the way, the Chicago Republican Party sending us a X.
Mm-hmm.
A X post.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chicago Republican Party from the Babylon Bee.
Yeah.
They're listening right now because it relates to what we were just saying. Sad, black people turned away in droves as Democrats require photo ID to enter convention. I haven't even looked at the Babylon Bee yet today.
That's funny. Yeah.
The one thing I guess I would like to know is, how is it being covered? We talked about local coverage of a lot of these elections, which is important, how local media covers it.
Right.
I wonder how the local media is covering what's going on in the streets.
Well, because it's disruptive to the businesses.
That's what
down
I mean.
there. Right.
That's what I mean.
That's exactly.
I'm looking at it from working in local radio, which is the same as working in local TV.
Right.
You're looking for the local stories. The fact that downtown is, parts of Chicago are basically shut down, ticks off a lot of locals when it happens.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, it's, and so I'm curious too, but also how many locals are, and is there any local coverage on, we heard from the alderman that said, look, the border's broken. And Kamala was a part of that. And that is sentiment coming from his constituents. So is there any local media coverage on that aspect of it? Because if you're going to do that, if you're hosting the DNC, then send your local reporters out to do the whole man on the street, reporter on the street. Hey, what do you think the Democrats should address while they're here in Chicago? What's your biggest concern? Blah, 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 right?
That's what they do, yes.
Yeah. So,
yep.
All right, we're on the hunt now. I got to find some of that.
866-90-RED-EYE.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up, we'll have the audio from Nicole Shanahan, who is RFK's Jr.'s vice presidential pick. By the way, very liberal, though. We talked about her in the past. Very liberal.
Yeah.
Said they're considering dropping out the race and endorsing Donald Trump. So that would be interesting. You and I asked that when there seemed to be some of the bump in the polls, is it possible that, when Harris came aboard and then we saw the decrease in Kennedy, it seemed around the same time, were those Kennedy voters who are now going to Harris, and is what is left Trump voters,
right?
Possible Trump voters.
Right.
I don't know. I don't have an answer for that. That's the $1 million question, because if you had a lot leave for Harris already, and Trump is where he is right now in the polls, where he would still win today, then if those votes go to Trump, if even, let's say, 70% of the votes go to Trump or 60% go to Trump, that makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
Because he's down to, what is he down to now? Remember when he first announced he was going to run. Remember, he was at 18.
Yeah, it was in the teens. It was getting close to 20%,
whatever.
Yeah, we were like, that's not going to hold.
Yeah, we always knew that wasn't going to hold.
No.
On it. Let me just look at the latest. If there is I'm just going to look at one. Okay, New Hampshire, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Harris 51, Trump 44, Kennedy 2.
Yeah, all right. But again, if
national here, Harris 47, Trump. This is a national multi-candidate ABC News Washington Post poll.
Mm-hmm.
Harris 47, Trump 44, Kennedy 5. I'm looking at other ones. CBS News, Kennedy 2. Now this goes back to Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
But as we all know, when you saw what's his name, I can't think of his name, the former Obama advisor, Axelrod,
mm-hmm.
when he came out and said it, and then you have other pollsters looking at this saying, "No, who was it? The guy who runs the biggest pro-Harris PAC, who said, no, the polls are way off from what we see,
right."
And not in a negative way towards Harris.
Right.
And so you look at it and you just wonder, okay, where does Kennedy actually stand? There's Kennedy with 2, another one Kennedy with 2, Kennedy with 7, Kennedy with 4, Kennedy 5, Kennedy 4.
Yeah,
Looking at Kennedy 5, Kennedy 4. So most of them are around 4 or 5 now.
Right.
For Kennedy. So that makes a huge difference if you have, like I said, a significant portion. Did a significant portion leave when Harris came in, and they said, okay, Harris is better than Biden because he can't win, and are the rest Trump, and will there be a certain number that will say, okay, let's, even 1 million, 500,000. That makes a difference.
That makes a difference.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
And he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Just going through X and reading.
Yeah.
Roy Wood Jr. I'm watching this entire DNC roll call just to see what rap song the DJ picks for Utah and Wyoming. He's a comedian, by the way.
Yes. He's been on our show twice? Once? Twice?
He was on once when the whole gang of Sullivan and Son was on, which would have been Steve Byrne.
Yeah.
Roy Wood Jr.
Okay. Yeah.
Ahmed.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't think of the other guy, the comedian that went bonkers.
Yeah.
I think his name.
Yeah.
He used to date, the one I'm thinking of used to date the actress that was in Buffalo 66.
Mm-hmm.
Christina Ricci.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Right.
They were all in the studio together when Sullivan and Son on TBS was on. That's when we first started the show. I got a memory on Facebook from that the other day of the picture of all of us.
Yeah. In fact, Owen Benjamin is who you were.
Owen Benjamin, yeah. Good guy when I met him, but he just sort of flipped.
I was really surprised that Roy Wood Jr. did not get, maybe I shouldn't be surprised, didn't get The Daily Show when Noah left. Roy Wood Jr. is just hilarious, and he was hilarious in studio. But yeah, that was an interesting night. All were, that night they were all great. I love Steve Byrne, love all the
Steve Byrne's
comedy. Ahmed was so generous off the air too, going, "Hey, we're also doing this," because these guys travel, the world. I don't know how much Owen Benjamin does these days, but I mean, they go around the world doing comedy and very generous with their time, but also very gracious to us.
Very unpolitically correct hour we had that time when they were all.
It really was. Yeah.
And the only guests we've ever had live in the studio.
Yeah. When the phone rings, when you call me, it's the picture that I have saved for your contact number.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That picture of all of us in the old studio?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll never forget when it was like Steve. I think it was Steve Byrne who said it. He goes, really getting to be a problem when I'm the one where I'm the one, and then and he mentioned everybody else. He goes, everybody gets stopped by TSA except Ahmed, who is remember he's from Egypt.
Yeah.
And it was so damn funny when he said. I mean, they were just, and it just was. I mean, good natured. It was roasting each other.
Oh, it was just roasting. It was so much fun.
And then I'll never forget because you were out one time, and Steve Byrne was on one of the last days of the Tonight Show with Jay Leno because he used to be. Used to be an act, and I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden, I get I forgot it was a phone call or an email, but it was like, hey, right after the Tonight Show, I'm flying into Dallas. This is Steve Byrne.
Yeah.
To do the Addison Comedy Club.
Yeah, the improv.
The improv there. And he said, you got room for me? And I said, always have room for you.
Yeah.
Because he's a great guy. I mean, he's the one that told the great story about in Hollywood where Vince, he's good friends with Vince Vaughn.
Right.
Good friends with Peter Billingsley.
Mm-hmm.
Peter Billingsley is the Christmas Story.
Mm-hmm.
Ralphie.
Mm-hmm.
Who's now a producer and everything else, and they've worked on projects together.
Right. Yeah.
In fact, I think Steve's movie, the stand-up comedy movie, Peter Billingsley was a part of also. But he's the one that said, that told me one time, because he talked about the political correctness in Hollywood and just, how, just trying to get through. You want to produce just great content.
Well,
and he's like, well, but have you checked off all the DEI stuff that you need to have in the movies and what's the message and it was like, but he told me the story of, because he was, as a stand-up comedian, he's great. And he was also trying to, break into Hollywood. And he told me the story of Vince Vaughn saying, acting isn't the way to go. Produce content,
yeah.
Produce new content. And he said, so I did, but he was great to talk about. But I knew when I first saw Steve, Byrne, and any stand-up comedian that has the Fed in his act, is probably more conservative than liberal.
Well, and it was interesting because Steve did Always Amazing, the documentary on the amazing Jonathan, stand-up comedian.
Yeah, he did. Yep.
And it was so well done. And and when you think of Steve being behind it, as a fellow stand-up comedian, obviously honoring the memory and also work of the amazing Jonathan. And when the amazing Jonathan was one of those comedians when he came on, because it's not like today. There's so many, with all the streamers, everybody has a special every week, But back then, it was a treat to see a stand-up comedian, but comedians like the amazing Jonathan, when he came on TV, it was like, stop. Everybody quiet. You got to watch it. And it was a real treat. Well, it was cool that Steve was behind that. And I was thinking of that recently when Vince Vaughn was on the Hot Ones episode, which is on YouTube. It's where they eat the chicken wings with the really, really hot sauce. Really, really, really hot sauce. It gets hotter with each wing. And Vince Vaughn didn't even break a sweat. Literally didn't break a sweat. But he was talking about, during that interview, while they were eating, the content of, and what he's been a part of. And the question basically was posed, and I'm paraphrasing, about the silly, and I would say sophomoric kind of humor, rated R comedies of the past that are seemingly gone. And Vince Vaughn's answer, and again, I'm paraphrasing that too, is that, well, at the studios, they just don't want to get fired. You have to do it by their formula. And so they're doing what the formula is, and nobody wants to do that anymore, and they don't want to get fired. I think that was the political answer. I think that was the diplomatic answer. He's got a show on Apple TV that's really getting a lot of great reviews, Vince Vaughn does. But he's somebody who is known as a critical thinker. And his association with Steve Byrne and that idea that we've been asking, the question we've been asking, why can't you just do comedy movies anymore, fun movies? Some of the streamers are doing them. John Cena's done a couple that are pretty good on Amazon. Yes, that same John Cena. He's very funny. But the studios, the big studios, don't really want to get into that game again. They're afraid of, number one, offending everybody or anybody, and then number two, afraid of not putting a message in their movie when all we want to do is be entertained, and Tom Cruise has proved that. While he's not doing comedy, although he's pretty good in Tropic Thunder, the idea for all of us, the escapism of a couple of hours, it's not money or time well spent anymore because it's crap. My wife and I were having this conversation. You talked about how you're just not into the sports. You were one of the biggest sports fans.
I was addicted. I had every single sports channel. I paid, I had the paraphernalia of my favorite sports teams. I, bought the NFL Sunday Ticket,
Big
NHL
foam
Center
number
Ice.
one finger.
Yeah, foam number one finger. Yeah, exactly. I had everything, and I've just completely, as I've gotten older, the only sports I've watched, as I told you in our pre-show meeting, the only real sports I've watched the major golf tournaments. If Scotty Scheffler's in the run, I'll watch because he's just playing out of, just out of your mind golf right now. Tiger-esque kind of golf he's been playing. But actually, I've watched more of Caitlin Clark.
Yeah.
And not just to watch her, because she's a great basketball player. The thing about her isn't even her shot. Her shot is amazing, but it's her assists, her passing. You just sit back. You start laughing. It's so stupidly good. They always say when something's so good, you go, this is just stupid. And she is. But it's also interesting to see how the team is rallying around her and how they're becoming a team. And how they're winning a lot more when they started out horrible. But she is such an entertaining person. And she does everything right. I mean, she got shoved at the end of the game. She got they shoulder her. She doesn't care. She doesn't play into any of the politics. She just says, She says the right things. She said, they pushed you because they're jealous of you. Well, that's what happens in professional sports. They test you.
Yeah.
And so I got a response. So, they're going to push and shove me. Yeah, they're going to do that. They test it. And I think she got a lot of respect from anybody who's played sports before going, of course that's going to happen.
She's not trying to be the victim.
No, not at all. She's trying to be the victim.
It's all about the game for her. It's all about focusing on the game.
And it's so refreshing to watch. Not that I watch the whole game, but a lot of times I'll watch. You know what I've gotten into, and I think it's just because I'm too busy. Now that YouTube, it's like, why do I need to watch a football game anymore?
20, 30 minutes and you get it, right?
I mean, most of them are probably between 12 and 15 minutes of the highlights. It's like I can watch it all.
Oh, the highlights of sports.
The highlights of sports, yeah. I'm watching the highlights now because every single thing on YouTube, any sporting event out there, here are the highlights in 12 minutes.
Right.
That's what I want to watch. I get everything that I need. I don't have time to sit down and watch something for 3 hours. I did on Sunday, for example, for the Caitlin Clark game, because I'm doing show prep from like noon until I go to sleep. It's a work day, so that's more structured of a work day than probably any other day of the week.
Right.
And so I'm doing it. And then the other one was like a Friday night at 6:00.
Right.
Well, I worked out and everything else, and I'm like, well, I'm going to go to sleep here at 6 o'clock. I can't go to sleep yet. What's on? The game was on, and after the game, I went to sleep. But I was going through different channels, but I went back just to see what she was doing, and she's extremely entertaining. But for the most part, I don't really watch sports anymore.
Well,
the NFL's almost gone. I get together with my buddies to watch it because I've got buddies who do it. And if they, I get together a couple times a year with them. Hockey, I might watch a little bit more. But I used to watch sports 24/7. When I would wake up, it would be the analysis of everything going on in sports.
Right, yeah.
And I just don't care anymore.
We've changed. I think at a point we just said, you're wasting our time. Whether it's Hollywood and producing a movie that's crap, which has been going on for a long time. But it's another thing if it comes off as preachy.
But movies, too. I don't watch as many movies.
Right. My wife and I were talking about it recently, and it really goes along with what Vince Vaughn was saying on that episode of the recent episode of Hot Ones. And just, it's because you don't want to waste people's time. The binging anything is that era is over. I don't know if it was COVID. I don't know what drove it, but I think a lot of it was you're putting too many messages in there. You're getting preachy, and that's wasting my time. Don't tell me what I care about. And I don't want to sit and watch for 2 hours something you care about if it's not my cause.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Unlike the Democrats, I love social media, even with the misinformation. The fact that citizens can fact check is wonderful. And I just love how the Democrats that are the biggest purveyors of lies and misinformation are the ones that are telling you that misinformation has to go. Mm-hmm. But this from a few hours ago, CNN reports that Kamala Harris had her plane circle for an extra 15 minutes so she could watch her husband's DNC speech. Reminder, the fuel wasting comes as Harris seeks to ban fracking, push EV mandates on Americans, and restrict fossil fuel usage.
I love it.
Well, that's why I bring up the hypocrisy of the Obamas.
Right.
I mean, it's just like it's so obvious. But that's the one thing that I think there's probably a consensus on when you look back from, and like I said, when Scott Jennings was in there and critical from CNN, the Republican, critical of he's a Republican, but saying, even though they were good speeches, I don't think they were. Because what's the goal of the speech? Is the goal of the speech to keep the converted or go after independents? Nobody was going after independents at the DNC last night.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
This is from Bloomberg from yesterday.
Yeah.
The Fed confronts up to 1 million U.S. jobs vanishing in their revision. The Bureau of Labor Statistics issues their preliminary benchmark employment revision today. U.S. job growth in the year through March was likely far less robust than initially estimated, which risks fueling concerns that the Federal Reserve is falling further behind the curve to lower interest rates. Goldman Sachs and Wells Fargo economists expect the government's preliminary benchmark revisions on Wednesday to show that payroll growth in the year through March was at least 600,000 weaker than the currently estimated about 500,000 a month. Meanwhile, J.P. Morgan Chase and Company forecasters see a decline of 360,000. Goldman Sachs indicates it could be as large as 1 million. So if it's 1 million, you're talking anywhere between 50,000 and 90,000 difference in a month. You know what that does when you actually look at, if you have, roughly you're averaging 210,000 jobs, right, created every month.
Mm-hmm.
It shows anemic job growth.
Yeah. Well,
if that's the case, if that's true, and that story came out yesterday,
and you pair that with the headlines of more and more layoffs and everything else. Look, the market the other day seemed to be, wow, okay, this looks some of the latest news and reports indicate that or give more fundamental backing to the idea that the Fed would lower interest rates next month, September. They may do it just out of, just the political game for Jerome Powell may be fully on, but we're not out of the woods yet. And the question would be, are we heading into recession territory, which is why you would start lowering these interest rates. But, we're not out of the woods on inflation. So, I can't tell you. Politically, I could see them doing a 1/4 point next month. But here's the question. If they believe, some analysts were talking about a 1/2 point, when it looked like recession may be happening right now. We may be heading into a recession. I can't tell you, and the reason I can't tell you is because of what you just brought. Who can tell you what the real numbers actually are?
Well, you see that steel is soft right now. There's a glut of steel worldwide.
Right.
So prices are crashing for steel because there's not the demand, which, again, is about construction. So,
but trucking has been in a recession for a while. I saw some analysts that said, well, there's more indication that it could be coming out of it by the end of the year. I don't see that, but, again, the transportation of goods. Trucking is changing. Long-haul trucking is changing, and companies are changing. How we ship goods, receive goods is changing. It's still moved by truck. But what trucking has been going through, the last year and a half?
Well, if you look at it, I looked. Now, I didn't get it through March because I go year to year. If you look at the average job growth in 2022 was, I said 210,000.
Right.
I don't know if I knew it was somewhere around that figure, but they have here. This is Bureau of Labor Statistics, 225,000 a month. If it's, as Goldman Sachs says, 90,000 a month, then you're talking about 135,000 average job creation a month in the United States. That's not good. That isn't good. That does not show a growing economy. If the economy is growing and you're only averaging 135,000 jobs a month, if that's what comes out today, then all of your GDP growth is coming from automation.
Yeah,
all of the economic growth is coming from increasing productivity and efficiency, which would mean automation, AI, whatever.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Because if where else does it come from?
Right.
Where would be the massive what would the massive factors be in having even 2% growth rate or 2.5% growth rate? Where is that coming from? Well, you're not hiring to get that type of job growth, so it has to be coming from productivity and efficiency, which is technology, automation, AI.
The changing of job descriptions for those that are kept on. You're going to have to do more work. You're going to have to take on a bigger role.
And if it's 135 or even 150,000, let's say it will split the difference. If it's 150, 160,000, how many of those were part-time jobs compared to full-time?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why you look at it and you go, whoa, when that number came out yesterday, you have to be wondering, okay, where are we going here?
Right.
Let me see. I'm trying to look at other numbers here. Wow. In 2022, 377,000 average per month. 2021, okay, you really can't count these averages, though, because these averages are coming after COVID,
right?
When people started rehiring again.
Yeah.
I just realized that as I was reading the numbers.
Mm-hmm.
So, not good. We'll see where it by the way, they're still throwing out that 16 million figure at the DNC, using the figure of jobs that.
Why not?
Yeah, why? If you're going to lie,
if you're going to lie, just go back.
Well, they've decided obvious fact-check lies are not a big deal because they hit every single lie about Trump on race and suckers and losers and everything else. Every lie, and they know it's a lie.
Mm-hmm.
Don't think the DNC doesn't know it's a lie. They review the scripts. They're okay with the lies.
Yeah,
everything from bloodbath on. They just the lies keep getting bigger and bigger. You and I were talking about the fact that when you look at the DNC, who's not at the podium speaking? There's no Gavin Newsom.
Right.
Gavin Newsom, who a year ago was viewed as the savior of the Democratic Party for this election. And you and I always said, no, he's not. We know he's got the Pat Riley 1980s head coach of the Lakers slick back hair look, but the fact is he represents California.
Mm-hmm.
He represents everything that is wrong that the Democrats, you want the evidence that the Democrats don't want. AOC, they had no choice. They got to put her on. She doesn't help the Democratic Party gain independence.
No.
But think about this. Gavin Newsom is so toxic that AOC can get a spot before he can.
Yeah.
And when you look at the Democrat Party, everybody who was on there, the major speakers are all the ones that were involved in getting rid of Biden. Nobody is new in the Democrat Party. No one.
No.
You don't have new people.
Well, it's like what we said about the RNC. The RNC did not have the establishment on stage. And
no, they didn't.
The DNC,
it's all establishment.
All establishment, which, by the way, also includes AOC because AOC is now the oppressor to some.
Yeah, and
she's no longer new.
And we all know the Democratic Party, we know because a month ago they hated Kamala Harris.
Right.
They're just there because it's their only hope. So they've got to pretend, they got to pretend and have that Tim Walz, what's his name on, Richard Simmons on acid, jumping up and down and wavies in his hands as almost it's time for the Democrats, to exercise with the oldies or whatever that was called.
Yeah, sweating to the oldies.
Sweating to the oldies.
Right.
I mean, it was just bizarre
Or as
watching.
I call it, a Green Day concert.
You watch him, but you think about it. All the new Democrats, everybody knows she made a horrible pick in Waltz. Democrats know it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And everybody knows that Kamala Harris is a horrible pick that is only there because of identity politics, because the Democratic Party viewed her as horrible just a month ago. Gavin Newsom doesn't have a primetime. Think about this. Gavin Newsom, who they adored. There are no new Democrats that the Democrat Party believes can convince any independents to vote for them.
Right.
That's why they're bringing back, the basically the the classic rock lineup.
Well, did Michelle say it last night? Hope is making a comeback.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, gee, who's in office right now? Why is that? Oh, you mean Kamala Harris is in office right now?
And that's the whole point. They're trying to
Hope
make it
for
as
what?
They're trying to make it as if Donald Trump's in office right now.
Right.
And like Biden and Harris don't even exist. And
Right.
Harris doesn't even exist as somebody who's actually in a seat of power right now.
Exactly.
And has been responsible for why Biden. Think about this. Everything that she proposed, or everything that Biden proposed, she agreed with. As we play the audio cut, and we'll play it again when, as one of our audio cuts of the day, because I'm thinking the two audio cuts of the day are the Democratic Chicago aldermen.
Yeah.
And then
Right.
the spokesperson for the Biden campaign was asked, can you tell us one difference between, her and Biden? And he couldn't do it.
And in fact, he went back to really handcuff them together.
Right. Then basically they're both involved in doing all these great things for America. Well, then why won't they do an interview? Because none of them can talk about the issues. Why don't they talk about the issues and where they stand on the issues? They can't do that. And so that's the bizarre thing, that it's the classic rock lineup, because they're trying to sell nostalgia instead of currently our party is completely and totally screwed up and we have no good young leaders in our party. They don't exist.
Who's the future? Who's the future in the Democratic Party? Who's the future? 2 months ago, you might have said Shapiro.
Right.
Nope.
Sorry. Jews cannot be the future. Think about how Neanderthal.
Wow.
What a Neanderthal statement that is, but it's true.
It's true.
Jews cannot be the future of the Democrat Party.
Wow.
Because we're a bunch of Jew-hating anti-Semites who are pro-terrorist and believe in Hamas.
My gosh. We can give you the entire list of the Republicans we believe are the future of the party.
Oh, yeah.
Where's the future? Who's the future of the party for the Democrats?
Well, just off the top of the head, you could, you got J.D. Vance, you've
Byron
got
Donalds.
Byron Donalds, you've got DeSantis, you've got
Ramaswamy.
Youngkin, you've got maybe in the future soon, Tulsi Gabbard.
Tulsi Gabbard, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, you've got
Ramaswamy is on that list.
Yep.
I mean,
You've got tons of young Republicans coming up. You don't have any Democrats because they're that radical.
and just for the liberals, I'll throw this in. Eric Trump, Donald Trump Jr., Barron Trump, Donald Trump Jr.'s children, Eric Trump's children, the future children of Barron Trump.
I'm telling you, it was such a classic rock lineup, you know, trying to bring back nostalgia. I was expecting someone to blame Bush.
That
I really was. I was like, wait a minute.
Maybe we missed it.
What about Bush? Does he need to blame for everything?
You know, there's 2 more days, so they have more. There's always time. Oh my gosh! Why didn't Barack Obama do that? Did he say it? Oh, I gotta get the transcript. I watched it, but I may have missed a minute.
Well,
maybe
they're so hypocritical. Seriously, I'm expecting Clinton tonight. I like to say that you got to keep away from this Trump guy because he doesn't treat women right.
This man is a misogynist.
I'm expecting to hear that.
Oh, or he says he hates women. And I got to tell you, I love women. I love women.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at JJ Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on roadside inspections. Roadside inspections all begin with the driver interview, during which the officer will gather basic information from the driver and prepare the driver for the inspection. The officer will also be evaluating the driver, determining if the driver can speak English, is under the influence of anything, has an illness, or is fatigued. The officer will ask the driver for required documents, including vehicle and driver credentials, the driver's log, and shipment paperwork. The officer may also conduct a vehicle inspection. Before beginning the inspection, the officer will take steps to make sure the inspection can be done safely. These include chalking the wheels, wearing personal protective equipment, and explaining what will be required of the driver. The driver needs to pay close attention to these instructions so that the vehicle inspection can be conducted in a manner that is safe for the inspection official. This tip was brought to you by JJ Keller & Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
Red Eye Radio. Here's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. So, yeah, I mean, that was the classic rock lineup for the Democrats last night. But I think it's really important because it's so telling. It's telling that there are no new ideas. And when you look at the people that they paraded out, and any of the new ideas that they have are so radical, that they can't let them out there. When you cannot give somebody that is well known as Gavin Newsom, remember the debate of the year last year was him and DeSantis.
That didn't go well for Newsom.
Didn't go well for him at all. Remember the build-up to that one? And he was going to be – you think about it, Newsom, I mean, he didn't go as far as Cuomo, but you think about it, he was supposed to be the savior because Harris couldn't do it. Everybody knows it. Mm-hmm. And so Harris can't speak to the press. Harris can't speak, and they're trying to defend that this is her surrogates are trying to defend now that Harris not speaking to the press is the right way to go because she goes directly to the people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's such a line of horse manure, and everybody knows it.
Yeah.
But they're afraid. There are no new Democrats that they can promote to the American public.
If the two idiots overnight can understand it, so can you. Red Eye Radio.
He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen to our podcast, which means you can listen to our show 2 times or 3 times or 4 times. You listen to it live, and then you say, I need to make sure they really said that.
You just want to confirm things.
Yes, exactly.
Trust but verify.
Yes. All right, let's play this Tim Walz cut from last night in Milwaukee.
All right.
Because one of the things we have stated is the reason that they won't talk to the public is because they don't believe themselves that anything that they say can stand cross-examination. That's why you have, as you have had the first couple of nights, the nostalgia tour.
Yeah.
Almost as if the classic rock artists come out because they're not going to offer you anything new. They're just bringing back the nostalgia of the past because nobody wishes to talk about the present, and any new blood in the Democratic Party is too radical to put before the public.
Right.
And so they bring out the classic rockers, and that's what happened last night. But here's Waltz, and the thing is they don't learn. For example, he keeps using this, not realizing the easy comeback from the Trump campaign that they've already used, which is extremely effective. Here we go.
Even if we would not make the same choice as our neighbors, we respect them because we live by that golden rule. Mind your own damn business.
Yeah, talk to the pro-Israeli protesters out there and see if that's what's going on with members of your party. But that's not the big one. This is from the guy who set up a snitch line
during
in Minnesota in COVID, so neighbors could tattle on their other neighbors, and he told them to.
Yeah,
there seems to be no self-awareness at all right now in the Democratic Party.
Right,
and we said this, yesterday, I believe it was, and that we have nitpicked the Republicans to market effectively, to market to the independents effectively. They're doing a much better job. Trump is a better campaigner. I don't count 2016 as much because 2016, he was brand new. He was the outsider.
Yeah.
But now you're talking about, where the Republican Party is versus the Democrat Party. Both, the sort of a race that is sort of two incumbents running against each other, even though it's not. And, well, the Democratic Party wants to make you believe that Trump is in office right now.
Yeah.
That all the problems you're facing is because of Trump. But the fact is, they are the ones that are in office. But when you look at Waltz and you look at the Democrats in general and their classic rock lineup, everything right now is about nostalgia, the imagery of nostalgia. But the things that they actually say do not make an independent want to vote for you. They're not even tackling those particular issues. And when they hit something specific or something that they have a crutch on, like for me, Waltz, that's a crush. His whole mind your own damn business. It's a very satisfying thing to say. Even if we would not make the same choices of our neighbors, we respect them because we live by the golden rule, mind your own damn business. That could not be further from the truth if you understand where the Democrats are. All right. So I don't want to use pronouns. Do you respect that? I don't think so.
Their response would be, well, that's when it becomes my business, and I'm going to mind my own business by putting you in jail for it.
Exactly. So, I mean, I just use that as a quick example. But the real big one is he keeps saying, we live by the golden rule. By the way, that's not the golden rule. But mind your own damn business, which seems to be, it doesn't, you sit there and you go, what does that apply to? What are you saying? Is that supposed to be an abortion? Is that an abortion thing? You're telling them to mind their own damn business? Well, everybody understands the fact of, well, yeah, but when the majority of the American public believes that somewhere in, this is where their abortion argument gets weak, is we have told them more Republicans should be talking about this, that there's been great accomplishments for the pro-life movement in this country, and that's that the majority of Americans and a plurality of women believe that life begins in the womb.
Right.
Well, you take the whole damn business, the whole mind your own damn business out of it, if that's what he was referring to, because the majority of the American public and even a plurality of women, according to the polls, believe. That's why very few Americans believe in abortion till birth.
Right.
And I found that out after the Dobbs decision when I had 5 or 6 or 7 different conversations with all pro-choice women, because as soon as they found out, everywhere I went, if they found out I was a conservative talk show Host, that's what you heard. That's what I heard. Well, what do you think about that? Well, I made the right ruling. What do you mean? Then I explained it to them. They went, oh. And then I said, and then you believe in abortion till birth. Well, no. Well, you just said it's your own body. Well, yeah, it is, and they should stay out of it. Then you would believe in abortion till birth. Well, no. It needs to be limited. And I said, when? 15 weeks, first trimester, whatever they would throw out. And I said, well, then what you're admitting is it becomes a human being sometime in there, and even you don't believe that your body, that you should be able to control your body at that point. So that argument's gone. But still using that just in general, as Walt seems to be using it, mind your own damn business, from the guy who set up a snitch line to tattle on your neighbors during COVID. I remember, this is part of the insanity. Remember, there's a couple of cars parked outside my neighbor's house, which means they're having people come in and visit.
Oh, remember when we got close to Thanksgiving and Christmas?
Yes.
We're going to monitor how many people you got coming and going.
There were instances of police departments going up to doors where people had cars outside and people were visiting who had to verify who was at their damn house.
Right.
Waltz was a part of that, and he's the one saying, mind your own damn business. That's just like Obama. I mean, it's like there's no self-awareness at all. Obama coming out and talking about the fact that, yes, we need to have a secure border, but we don't need to separate children. The day that the Department of Homeland Security said under the Biden-Harris administration, 291,000 children are unaccounted for in the United States that have crossed the border illegally. We don't know where they are. And Obama's saying, and the one who created the concept of the cages.
Yes.
It's like there's absolutely no self-awareness, like they live in a delusional world, or
they believe you're stupid and don't know.
They've all said, well, the Delta 9 and the Delta 8 is really legal in every state, so let's really imbibe before we start jumping into the arena of ideas.
Everybody's high.
Yeah, everybody's high because there seems to be no self-awareness.
And if you're going to create this delusional moment, the reinventing of Kamala Harris is all a facade. Well, then your entire convention has to be a facade. It has to be, you just get up there, you just say words. This is my takeaway. My takeaway from last night. The first night, I still can smell the smoke. It was a dumpster fire. It was anger. And last night was, we'll just put some words together and we'll insert Kamala's name, and then we'll go, racism on Trump, and, we'll just, where's the 96 playbook?
Well, when their platform, if you look at their platform is exactly the same that it's been over the last 20 years, give everybody everything.
Right.
But the fact is they didn't even take Biden's name out of their platform.
Right. No, it's not even, honestly,
it's
don't look behind the curtain. Don't look behind the curtain.
And
But again, I have to wonder. Because they're clearly not targeting independents here. And I don't expect them to. So now what would be the purpose? Is it, and I'm asking a question, is it because they know that voter apathy is still a real problem, maybe even worse with Kamala?
Or they haven't figured out a way to spin the issues. Because what are independents concerned of right now? The border,
the economy,
the inflation.
Yep.
Which is the economy.
Yeah.
They use it as two different things, but it's the same thing to the American public.
Right.
Because your economy is your personal economy.
Right.
How's the economy doing? It sucks because I'm not doing well.
And it's not, and we've talked about this over the years, Inflation affects everyone. This is even in a recession. If you get up to a certain unemployment level, whatever the unemployment rate is, when it's higher, the majority of people still have a job. Well, everybody is affected by inflation.
Well, and if you have a recession, you have a much better chance of having lower prices because of supply and demand. And if you have 10% unemployment, that gives you a better chance of having lower prices.
Right.
The problem is, as you just stated, is that inflation affects everybody all the time, and it doesn't matter whether you're poor or whether you're well off. You still notice it.
Yep.
Every time you go, oh, wow,
right,
wow, that's bad. But there seems to be no self-awareness about the things that they say, how easy people can pick it apart, and how easy the Republicans can destroy it under cross-examination, which they know. They say it anyway, and on social media and other media, they're corrected on it, or they're pounded for their hypocrisy, but they don't know where to go because they can't defend Harris on her record in the Biden administration, and they can't separate her from the Biden administration and where the Biden administration stands on the issues. They can't. We'll play the audio. Well, the audio coming up with the spokesperson for the campaign that was asked a direct question by friendly media.
Yep.
Can you tell us one thing that she differs from Biden on? He couldn't do it. So Kamaga's gone.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, I don't think
we
you're going
to.
Have we heard any pro-fracking ideas in the first 2 days? I haven't seen all the speeches. Have anybody from the oil industry there?
No.
Anybody from Pennsylvania there promoting fracking?
Now, remember, after Obama left office, he tried to take credit for the rise in production of oil during his tenure, which is kind of rich. But for those Democrats who didn't know that, that's true. Because you saw a massive rise in domestic production, and then he was like, oh, well, that happened during my reign.
Yeah, because Trump was taking credit for it, remember?
Yeah.
Trump was saying, look at all, and he goes, it started during, production started going up as he was trying to kill production.
Yeah.
He couldn't make up his mind whether he wanted to kill production or take credit for the increase in production, but that's the hypocrisy of the left.
You don't have to choose just one.
But I'll say right now, you're right.
You can have both.
I can choose. Look, you need to be able to choose both sides of it. I'm waiting for somebody to say that now. They're defending her not taking questions. Well, because she's going directly to the people. The people, she's not doing. Is she doing a long-form press conference before the people? Is there a group of Republicans citizens that she would speak before and take questions from?
Right.
No, I mean, they're defending the indefensible across the board. So I wouldn't be surprised if they said, well, no, it's good that she holds differing 180-degree opinions on the same issue. That shows that she has an open mind and is willing to.
She's evolving.
She's evolving, yes. God. 866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Will Robert Kennedy Jr. drop out of the race and endorse Trump? We'll hear what his VP running mate had to say yesterday. Plus, we'll get to some of your calls and comments and some of the, I think some of the important things that came out last night, really from Democrats on where the Democrats are going. And these are actually Democrats who we have some audio that we played earlier that we want to replay for our audience that is waking up right now. That's the beauty. We're on so damn long that...
yeah. And also for our production staff that's waking up right now. So
right.
Yeah.
And in many time zones, we started the show yesterday, and it goes through today.
Right.
Sort of like the DNC did on Monday.
It never stops.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.